What? Turn my phone around. We're live. Day
Hello.
17 of 21-day challenge. Speaking our wants. I'm going to play this video, just the sound though, for everyone to remind us what this is about.
Find out what you want and keep it off of what you don't want. Keep your conversation on what you want. Keep your conversation off of what you don't want. Keep your dreams, your imagination, your thoughts, your feelings, everything in your environment consistent with what you desire, and keep it off of what you don't want. Why do we pick 21 days? Well, very good reason. It takes 21 days for a chicken that has a brain the size of a pea to sit patiently, calmly, faithfully on an egg to hatch the egg. Now, we feel that if a chicken with a little brain like that can sit on an egg for 21 days without seeing any change, just in faith, for 21 days, it can sit there on that egg, then we could probably ask adults who have brains that are the size of 3 pounds, that have 12 to 20 billion cells, and have the capacity to remember and retain all the knowledge known to man, if their brain could be tapped, we ask them to keep at it for 21 days. If you will go on a positive mental attitude diet for 21 days, keep your mind on it. The goal is to become what we call a purely positive person. For 21 days, we want.
I like that.
I'm going to have to say that I have not been keeping to that.
You have not been a purely positive person.
Exactly.
Well, so that's why it's a challenge and not a challenge. Um,
No words.
no, yeah. So, I mean, look, I don't, I haven't been like keeping 100% to it either. I try and not try. I get up every day and I focus my attention on what I want. I focus my attention on what I'm envisioning for myself and for us and for everyone who's, around me and all of that. But sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes there's, stuff comes up. Like this little puppy was not feeling good the other day, and I had to take care of her and take her to the vet, and just crap comes up, and it makes you like, you know, start going down that negative mindset stuff, right? And but that's why it's important to make it, that's why it's important to make it a habit. So, and you especially, I do not blame you for not sticking to it, you got a lot of stuff going on just like the rest of us. So, um, but that's okay. That's okay. It's a phase. That's all it is, just a phase. And I would put this to everyone else too. Don't listen to your brain when it tells you that it's always going to be this way, because that's what our brains do. You get into a negative situation or even a positive situation, and your brain tells you it's always going to be that way. It's never going to get any better. It's always going to be this way. It's not true. It's a freaking lie. So don't listen to that crap. If any of you are going through stuff, which I don't even know, like I don't know people who are not going through stuff. Like I honestly don't know anybody who's not going through stuff right now on some level, right? That's just life. Some people, attack it and try and do the best they can to take care of the problems, right? But sometimes that's not always possible. Sometimes it's not as simple as just attacking it and taking care of the problem, right? Um, so but the point is to not let that become, not let that overtake your thoughts and your mindset. So I read where is it? I read a statement yesterday. Um, poor people stay poor because they're worried about other poor people judging them for doing the things that it takes to get rich. And as sad as that is, when you're first starting out, many of the people around you want you to fail, secretly want you to fail, because it justifies to them the risks that they were unwilling to take. And so by you actually going out and taking the risks and taking the chances, it forces them to look at the risks that they didn't take and their own regrets, right? It forces them to look and deal with their own regrets, right? So that's another one. It's just like keep yourself around positive people, people who are where you want to be. Surround yourself with those people. When problems come, do your best to not run away from them, but to try and figure out a way to solve them. And make it a point every day to focus on what you're going after, what you want. So that's my 2 cents on the subject. I would love to hear anybody's responses on where you're at and what you're struggling with maybe and how you're dealing with it, because that's what this entrepreneur game, that's what it's all about. It's about the problems, the shit, the struggles with the business, or the just the problems in the business are not going to just stop. And in fact, the more successful you become, they're just a different level of problem. But in most cases, when you start to become successful, most problems can be handled with money. And if it's a problem that can be handled with money, it's not really a problem, right? So that's the good news, right? Is a lot of stuff can get handled uh, with money, but you got to get to that point, and in the beginning, it's a struggle because you may not have the money to take care of certain problems. So you got to get creative, right? That's the real trick. You got to start thinking outside the box and get creative and learn from other people who have already gone through that stuff, you know? So, any thoughts, Pansy?
Nothing I can share.
Okay. All right. Well, um, like put my little puppy down. My brother went through a really nasty divorce. Like he went through a really shitty, nasty divorce. Um, under some of the worst, under some of the worst circumstances. He's in the military, right? Which is like this is like par for the course. Like if you're in the military, you get divorced. Like you're pretty much, if you get married while you're in the military, it's almost like an inevitability that you're going to get divorced. So it took 17 years, which is better than the average. Like you stayed together better than the average couple. But shit fell apart, man. Like, what can I say? I don't know how to put it any other way. Shit fell apart. And this is in the midst of he was going through a major transition in his job and his function. He had my nieces, or two wonderful nieces, but they were both dealing with mental stuff. One of my nieces ended up at Hoag Hospital because of,
Do you think they want their information out there?
oh, it's okay. There's a good part to this.
I'm just saying this is alive and
It's okay. It's okay. I wouldn't be saying it if it wasn't something that, wasn't okay. I'm not giving specific details anyway. So anyway, so my nieces were dealing with some stuff on their own side of it, and my brother was having to handle all this stuff, right? And after everything, after all of it, at the end of all of it, right? Every time a problem came up, my brother would figure out a way to handle it. And sometimes that meant reaching out to me, sometimes that meant reaching out to friends, sometimes that meant whatever. But he figured out a way to handle the problems that came up during this, right? And just took it one day at a time, right? Every single day was, obviously had its new set of issues that he had to go through. And it was stressful and it was a challenge, but every single time he'd figure out a solution to a problem. And on the other end of it, right, he still has a strong relationship with his ex. Like at least I shouldn't say strong, but at least a cordial relationship so that the kids are at least taken care of. And he's found someone else, right? And they get along great. But this took a good amount of time. And it took and there was plenty of times where, I would not have blamed him for thinking that this was the freaking end of the world. Do you know what I'm saying? But he got over that point. He got over that mindset thing with help, got over that mindset thing, and realized that this was actually not the end of the world. It was actually just a shift in his life, a major transition in his life that was actually leading to much better things, right? And it did. And at the end of the road, it did lead to much better things. And so it's not, no matter what you're going through, if you can stop listening to that voice in the back of your head that's telling you that it's never going to change, that it's always going to be this way, that it's just going to get worse, and like it's all BS. So stop listening to that crap. If any of you
Okay,
guys are
going back to the 21-day challenge and thinking of your wants.
Mhm.
So,
What does that mean?
well, that's where we started and you went off track. So I'm trying
Well,
to put it
I'm
together.
trying to run the show here, Pansy. You haven't really been talking about anything. So
I'm trying to put it together. How can we freaking put it together? Because it doesn't sound like it's like I get what you're saying and I believe it's helpful for people, but how can we put this to pertain to the 21-day challenge of speaking R1?
speaking our wants, a part of speaking your wants is staying positive, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, thanks everyone. I hope this was helpful.